Every single person is born to win, but they've been conditioned to lose. So I didn't manifest anything. I busted my butt and I actually went out and made it happen.
Natural cure is so controversial.
It was controversial back then. It isn't controversial anymore because everything in it's mainstream. By the way, that goes in the Kevin Was Right file. And that file's pretty darn thick. I'm Kevin Trudeau and you're watching Life Minute TV.
Kevin Trudeau, welcome to Life Minute.
Glad to be here.
It's good to see you. You're looking well.
So are you. I like your studio.
Thank you. Well, congrats on your new book.
Yes, it's the newest book, Your Wish is Your Command, How to Manifest Your Desires. As you know, I have 6 #1 New York Times bestsellers. My books have sold almost 100 million copies around the world. And this is really the first book on manifesting. That's the hot word today, right? Yeah. Manifest your desires, manifest your reality, create the reality that you want. And it's really a misnomer. And the reason why I had to come out with this book is back in my day, it was about how to set and achieve your goals. The word was achievement, how to have achievement in your life. Now it's manifest. And the challenge with that is a lot of people, hear about the law of attraction or think about manifesting and how to create your reality. And they think all you have to do is kind of visualize what you want and just kind of ohm and sit in your house and vibrate good things and feel good now and always be in gratitude and appreciation. And the universe is going to shower you with riches and pay off all your credit cards and give you the job of your dreams and give you the relationship of your dreams and the body of your dreams and everything that your heart desires. All your fantasies and wishes are going to magically come true. And that is delusional. That's not how it works in real life. When you are in a room with 30 or 40 guys, each who have a net worth of a minimum of $200 million, and when you talk to them and say, how did you manifest that? They almost giggle at the word manifest. I'd say, I didn't manifest anything. I busted my butt and I actually went out and made it happen. All right, well, what did you do? And then when you talk to people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who says, I worked, but then he also says, I pictured in my mind's eye me winning Mr. Olympia. And I felt as if I was actually winning Mr. Olympia. I would visualize that every night. So they actually do some of the steps in the manifesting formulas. But there's things that they also do that aren't in any of the books. And this is why I wrote the book, Your Wish is Your Command, How to Manifest Your Desires, the missing secrets, because I fill in the gaps. It answers the question that most people get when they say, listen, I read, The Secret. I understood the law of attraction. I've read Ask and It Is Given. I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. All good books, by the way, and I recommend them all. But I read all these books and I'm not making more money and I haven't manifested my relationship or whatever. What am I doing wrong? And invariably, there are missing ingredients that people do not do, that those who do achieve their goals and, quote, manifest what they want, they do. And so there's common denominators, and that's what's in the book.
Can you spill any of them?
I can. I'll give you a whole bunch, all for free. Here's one major thing. If you ask anyone, and I've asked hundreds of people, I said, you've read The Secret, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks, and on and on and on. Yes, I read them all. You've gone to all the seminars by all the success gurus. Yes. What is the 4 or 5-step formula for manifesting your goals? Nobody can tell you. They've gone to all these seminars, they've read all these books, but they can't even tell you what the steps are. They say, well, you have to picture in your mind. That's not step 1. What's step 1? Well, you have to feel good now. No, that's not step 1. You have to be thankful and grateful and always look for, things to be thankful. That's not step 1. Step 1 is actually something that's not in any of the books. And that is this. It's the why behind the why. Winners love to win, but they hate to lose. Remember Vince Lombardi, the great football coach of the Green Bay Packers? He said, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser. People are more motivated to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So the first thing a person has to do if they want to achieve anything is they have to know what their pain point is. What is it in their life they're not willing to accept anymore? Jim Rohn, one of the great motivational success speakers of all time, was the sweetest guy in the world. But he said repeatedly, the number one emotion that you have to use if you want to achieve things in life and attain success is you have to activate disgust. He said you have to find something in your life that disgusts you, that you're disgusted with, that you will not tolerate anymore. Unless you find what you don't want and get disgusted with it, you can't contract the energy and then do step 2, which is clearly define what you do want. Even Napoleon Hill said, define your dream and get a burning desire for its achievement. But how do you define your dream? You can't define it unless you first know what you don't want. And this is a critical step. Now, you don't live there. You're not feeling disgust all day long. Of course not. You visit there for just a moment. You find something that you won't tolerate, that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of, that you will not accept anymore. And from there, that's when you can clearly define what you do want. And that's step 2. Most people also miss step 2. I go, what do you want? Well, I want more money. How much? Enough. You're not going to get it. How can you hit a target that you don't have? You have to have a zero. If you're going to the shooting range or a bow and arrow range, there's a target with a bullseye. What are you aiming for? The bullseye. Everyone who achieves things in life knows specifically what they want. It's clearly defined. It's a clearly defined goal. And most people don't know what they want. If I were to ask you, what's your name, what's your address, what's your phone number, you instantly give it to me. But if I say to most people, what do you want? They go, well, stop. You're not going to achieve anything because you don't even know what you're shooting for. So you have to have a clearly defined goal, and it must be written down. Zig Ziglar told the story of the research that was conducted. It was either Yale University or Harvard. It was in the 60s. The graduating class was asked, how many have clearly defined goals that they want to achieve in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years? Only half the class had clearly defined goals. Then they asked those that did have clearly defined goals, how many of you have them written down? Less than 3% had them actually written down. 20 years later, there was a follow-up. The 3% that actually had their goals written down had achieved more financial success than all of the other 97% combined. So not only do you have to clearly define your goal, but you have to have it written down. Written down, by the way, doesn't mean type it into a computer or a cell phone. It means take a piece of paper, ideally a white piece of paper and a pen with blue ink, and actually write it down. That creates neural pathway activity in the brain, which is very unique, by the way. So write it down. Then you do what a lot of people hear about. You picture in your mind yourself in possession of what you want. But you have to add something. You have to feel now as if you would feel if you were actually in possession of it. A lot of people stop right there. You're not going to achieve your goals because when you start picturing yourself in possession of what you want and thinking about it, most people feel bad because they feel like they don't have it and they're afraid they're never going to get it. They think, when I get my goal, then I'll feel good. You're never going to attain it. You have to feel now as if you already had it, which means you feel good. But there's a final step, which most people never talk about, and that is you must release attachment to that outcome. You have to say, but if it never happens, it's perfectly okay, because I'm grateful and appreciative for what I have in my life right now. And that's when you activate gratefulness and thankfulness and appreciation. But that's the basic. If there was a summary of the formula, that's the basic formula that all successful people use, either consciously or subconsciously. And you can see there's, in that even summary, there's things that people miss.
And what if it doesn't work the first time?
Well, remember, if you released attachment to the outcome, you don't care. The fact when people get upset that it's not manifesting means you're not doing the recipe properly, because you think, when I get it, then I'll feel good. And I feel bad and it isn't working. It's not fast enough. That means you're never going to attain it. This is why people say, it happened when I least expected it. I was trying to get into a relationship for 5 years. And finally I gave up. And I said, forget it. I'm never going to get into one. I just gave up. I surrendered and said, it's not going to happen for me. And then all of a sudden, bam, they're in the best relationship of their life. And they think, and you know, it happened when I didn't even expect it. That's exactly right, because you released attachment to the outcome, which means you released the fear of it not happening. You released the broadcasting, the vibration of lack, and therefore you attracted it into your life or allowed it to manifest in front of you.
Interesting. Well, you're the OG self-help guru, mentor. How did you get into this space and why did you want to?
Well, again, I didn't want to. I'm a real businessman. Unlike 99% of the people out there that are in the personal development space or self-improvement space or success space or how to make money space or law of attraction space. And I know most of them, by the way. I know most of these guys. I remember Wayne Dyer used to call me all the time. He was unfortunately an alcoholic at the end and a very depressed guy. And I know a lot of the guys that would call me for advice. I'm not making any money. What can I do? I go, well, you're the manifesting expert. How come you can't manifest any money? But Kevin, but you're the marketing guy. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Over and over again, people would call me. And then when you look at people who are experts being interviewed, they're asked questions about their own book. And here's what the answer is, which is shocking. And I'm not going to mention names, but they're asked questions and they go, well, I think the way it works is they don't even know because they're guessing, they're making it up. I didn't make any of this up. I didn't invent it or discover it. I was taught a 40-point algorithm back in the late 60s and early 70s from some very wealthy mentors of mine. And they taught me the mathematical algorithm that was taught to them. It's math. And they said, if you follow this recipe, it's the success system that cannot fail. It's a recipe. It's like if you mix certain chemicals together and follow a recipe, it blows up. It's not magic. You don't have to be that smart. All you have to do is follow the instructions. You bake a cake, it's the same thing. If you follow the instructions, the cake rises and it's a beautiful fluffy cake. You don't follow the instructions, you put too much of this ingredient, not enough of that, and you don't get the result and you go, it didn't work. No, the recipe works. You're not following the recipe. Success is the same. So what happened to me was I used the algorithm, the 40-point algorithm for success, and I generated billions and billions of dollars in business. I had 3 TV networks in Europe. I had mining operations in Australia, a whole host of other companies around the world. People that were close to me, that worked for me, I wanted them to do really well. So I would teach them a little bit of how to use their mind and how to create what they wanted because it would help my business. Over 100 of those men and women became multimillionaires because they used it. Some of them went into real estate. Some of them went into other businesses. And I was cheering them on all the way. And we all remained friends, whether they left and started their own business and became multimillionaires or not. One guy went to the UK and he did £1 billion in business in a new venture he started. Another gal from Florida who started off as my file clerk, by the way, at minimum wage. She went on to develop a multi-million-dollar real estate empire. Another guy who was a UPS truck driver went on to be the largest employer in Portland, Maine, with this huge enterprise. Another fellow was making pizzas in a pizzeria, sleeping on a blow-up mattress in his mother-in-law's house when I told him how this works. And he went on to develop a business generating over $150 million a year in business. And that was 15 years ago. In today's money, that's like $300 or $400 million a year in business. So amazing successes. And because of that, people kept coming to me from all over the world and saying, Kevin, please teach a seminar on how to become successful, how to attain goals, how to manifest your dreams. And I said, that's not my business. But this went on for years and years and years. So I finally decided to do it, but I thought I'm only going to have people that are serious. I charged 50 grand. It was in the Swiss Alps. And for 2 days, I taught the 40-point algorithm, the formula, and I recorded it. Those people went on to become ridiculously wealthy. I took the recordings and then I offered that for sale. And then people who bought that, I get virtually thousands of letters, sometimes every month, emails, letters, correspondence from people that have gone through that original program and have, turned their life into amazing successes or just achieved what they wanted. Maybe it was a great relationship or greater sense of peace, joy, and happiness or something like that. Doesn't necessarily mean lots of money. And that's when I decided to write the book, because the audios, still people had some questions on that, on the live seminar. So I took the live event, transcribed it, and then I put together the book, Your Wish is Your Command. And now it's all there for everybody. Again, it wasn't something I wanted to do. It was something that it was almost I was forced to do. And I was getting very annoyed with all the people out there that claim to be success gurus, because I knew them. And I mean, there was one guy, very successful. You would know him if I mentioned the name. Most people do. He's a success guru, law of attraction guru. He was bankrupt. He had filed bankruptcy a couple times. Nothing worked. No business that he tried succeeded. And he called me and he said, Kevin, I figured out how I can make some money. I said, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to write a book on how to attract success. I says, yeah, but you haven't attracted success. You've attracted failure. He goes, yeah, so I'm giving up. So I decided I'm just going to write a book on how to attract success because people I know will buy it. I go, but you don't know what you're talking about, because if you did, you'd be successful before you wrote the book. He goes, I don't care. And I know how to sell it. So he wrote the book. And in the book, he was teaching stuff that obviously didn't work, because if it worked, it would have worked for him. But it sounded good. And he was a good writer. So he wrote a book that sounded good. Unfortunately, if you follow the advice, you're not going to get good results. But it sounded good, had a nice cover, and he made $1 million in the next year. And I says, don't you feel bad knowing that you're giving people advice that really doesn't work? He goes, you know something? I'm tired of being broke. So I decided just to make some money. I mean, so my point is, I got frustrated with people like that, because I would listen to all these folks saying, I read that book and I tried it and it didn't work. I go, I know, because you're getting a bad recipe. Remember Julia Childs?
Yeah.
The French chef.
Right.
She wrote a cookbook, and you know why? Because she said she would read cookbooks, follow the recipe, and it would come out like crap. Because the people, even though they were great chefs, weren't even verifying the recipes were correct and somebody could follow them. So sometimes the recipes were missing an ingredient by accident. Sometimes the instructions weren't very clear. And therefore, a person would get that, try to follow the recipe and not get a good result, and then feel bad and think, I must be something wrong with me. So she said, I'm going to write a cookbook and then actually give the recipes to, back then it was women who would do most of the cooking, give to housewives and say, cook it. I'm going to watch you to see if it's written properly so you're following it. And there was one example, she said, in one of the recipes, boeuf bourguignon, which is beef burgundy, right? Boeuf bourguignon, it says, brown a half a cup of mushrooms. And she said, nobody browned it properly. One woman took the mushrooms, threw it into a pan, and started sauteing them. They didn't even slice them. Somebody else put it into a small pan, put a cover on it, and virtually steamed them. No one knew how to brown the mushrooms. So she had to say, take a button mushroom, slice it into three slices. Then take a pan, heat it first, then put oil in the pan. She would explain exactly the oil, duck fat or beef lard, ideally, because it has a high flash point. And then lay the mushrooms out like you would little mini hamburger patties. Then with tongs, after 2 minutes, turn it over and see if it's browned. If it isn't, go back and let it brown for another minute. Then turn each one over and let that side brown. Then take them off with the tongs and then do another batch. It'll take 3 batches. She had to explain in great detail. When people got her cookbook, the Art of French Cooking, which is my favorite cookbook, by the way, you cannot screw up the recipe because everyone was tested and verified to produce the result that she wanted, which was a perfectly cooked meal. Same thing with the book, Your Wish is Your Command. It gives you the actual steps. So there's no question. There's no doubt. There's no, I wonder what I should do. I wonder if this is correct. And this is the reason why I really had to write it.
And what if people are like, oh, I'm like too depressed or can't even get through all of, these 40 steps? Like, what do you say to those people who just don't feel like they can do it?
A lot of people basically have very low self-confidence, low self-esteem. They don't believe in themselves, and therefore they won't take action. One of the things in the book that it does, it's written with You could call it hypnotic language patterns. There's certain syntaxes to the phraseology. There's certain embedded commands. A person, every single person is born to win, but they've been conditioned to lose. So we have failure programming, and we've developed failure habits. So when you read the book, if you just read the book is designed to deprogram you. It's to basically eliminate your failure programs and replace it with success programs. So just by reading the book, you're being effectively programmed for success. And what occurs is when somebody reads the book, they start getting inspired. They start getting motivated. They start believing in themselves. In the book, I also explain you eat an elephant one bite at a time. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. A person learns to go as far as they can see, and when you get there, you'll see further. So I teach you very specifically, look, you're not trying to take on this gargantuan task. Maybe a person's goal is to lose 100 pounds. Guess what? Your goal first is to lose 1 pound. So let's focus on that. And then when we get there, we'll lose another.
Yeah.
One step at a time. You didn't gain the 100 pounds overnight. You're not going to lose it overnight.
What are things you do personally to be successful?
Well, there's one thing I teach in the book. I didn't invent this. I was taught this by my parents. And back in my day, everyone was taught this by our parents, but we didn't understand the science behind it. And that was this. At nighttime, before you go to bed, say your prayers. Everybody had different prayers, but here was the basic one. And if you watch some of the old movies and the little girls, the little boys would go to bed, they would get on their knees and they would pray. And here's what they would say. God, please bless mommy and daddy. Please bless my brother. Please bless my sister. Please bless my teacher. Please bless. So what they would do is the first part of the prayer at night that I do is I ask God or the universe to bless all the people in my life. However, there's another part to that. That little girl would say, and also bless Uncle Tommy, who I'm really mad at right now and I don't like, but bless Uncle Tommy. So what you would do is you would also bless your enemies. So at nighttime, I suggest to people, before you go to bed, so that you can allow your subconscious mind to help manifest what you want, sit down and think of all the people in your life and ask God or the universe, however you want to look at it, to bless those people, including the people you hate and your enemies. That's number one. And then number two, then say, and thank you, God, or thank you, universe, for my health, for this comfortable bed, for my parents, for my spouse, for my job, for my mind, for my strength and the ability to handle the challenges I'm currently facing in my life. Thank you. And so you start being grateful and appreciative with this sense of amazing gratitude for everything in your life. And now you go to sleep. You're going to sleep wonderfully. And the subconscious mind or the universe is going to start working on your behalf to help manifest, there's that word, what you desire.
And you've obviously been through so much. Has your perspective on anything changed, or have you stayed the course?
Yeah, people ask me a lot, Kevin, you've gone through adversity. How did you deal with adversity? I said, no, you're quite mistaken. I've had a very blessed life. I haven't gone through any adversity. They go, wait a minute. You've gone through major adversity. You were sued. You were held in contempt of court. You were thrown in prison for 8.5 years because you wrote a book that exposed the drug companies. You faced adversity. I go, oh, no. No, you may think that it's adversity, and for you it may have been adversity, but for me it was a gift from the universe. I never had to face adversity. Anytime something happened, I understood the universe doesn't do things to us. It does things for us. Every successful person, J.D. Rockefeller, richest man who ever lived, Napoleon Hill, all these people, all said the same thing. In every, quote, adversity is the seed of a greater benefit. J.D. Rockefeller said there's two things that I can tell you are the keys to my enormous wealth. Number one is I always was a giver. He was a Baptist, and he had to tithe, and he had to give offerings, and he had to give to charity, and he had to do so anonymously. So he said, My first paycheck was $1.50. I gave 10% of it away anonymously to the church. I put it in the box without anybody know it was coming from me. And it was because of that constant, never stopping giving was that I got blessed. And secondly, every adversity, every situation that happened that was off my radar screen, or every situation that happened that I could say, I wish this didn't happen, or this is not what I want. I knew that there was a pot of gold, a treasure chest in the middle of it. All I had to do was find it. So in every challenge or adversity or bad thing, I knew there was gold waiting to be found. And in every adversity, I came out 100 times better than when I started. So he knew that. And he goes, those were the two things that he attributed his amazing wealth to. So when you're faced with something in your life that you don't expect, you don't want, you don't like, maybe you think it's going to give you pain, I understand that. I would challenge people to use this as an opportunity to look for the gold and understand that in every adversity is the seed of a greater benefit. The universe doesn't do things to us, it does things for us. And so with me, I really embraced that during all the things that came up in my life. When I came out of it, I was infinitely better off, just like John D. Rockefeller. You know, there's a phrase, you go through a tragedy, right? Something bad happens and you're sitting around with some people and you're crying and you're upset and you're in pain and it's devastating or tragic. And somebody will say, you know, someday we'll look back at this and laugh. And it's true, isn't it? We know it's true. So why wait? Laugh then. If you know that someday you're going to look back at it and laugh, why wait to someday? Laugh now. So instead of crying, laugh.
Good way to look at it. What do you think is the key to happiness in life?
The key to happiness is not feeling that when you get something, then you'll feel good. The Buddha says it great, desire. It's the need of having something that you don't have is the cause of all suffering. The word is translated desire in English, but a better translation is wanting something you don't have, thinking that you'll feel better when you get it. That is the cause of all suffering. So another way of stating it is not being attached. So if you lose something, I had a friend of mine in California, Southern California. She lived in a castle. The interior contents of that castle was valued at maybe $400 million. There was a fire in Malibu. Her castle burned to the ground. She lost all those treasures. And many of them were hundreds and hundreds of years old in her family. And they weren't insured because they were priceless treasures. So she lost not only all the things, but all the money. When I called her and I said, Lily, my heart goes out to you. This was tragic. She goes, I was tired of cleaning that house.
Oh,
Time to move on, Kevin. And I said, Lily, I love you. I know you do.
ugh. Did she lose all her money?
Well, she lost a lot of it. Well, she lost her wealth. I mean, not her, assets that were in the bank, but all the beautiful things. And I've been in that home. I mean, we enjoyed looking at those things together. I remember we spent sometimes hours looking at all these priceless treasures. It was like a museum. But you can't be attached to things. And people are attached to their pets. Hey, I lost my dog. I got my dog when she was 6 weeks old. Her name was Princess because she was a princess, a little white Maltese. And she was with me for 20-something years. She lived way longer than any Maltese is supposed to live, completely healthy. And then one day she died. I miss my dog, But I also loved being with my dog for such a long period of time, and I felt blessed to have her in my life. So I went through the grieving process, and it's good to grieve. You have to give yourself time to grieve. But you can't grieve forever. I was auditing a seminar, a workshop actually on Zoom, where these people were dealing with traumas and helping clear themselves up. And this one woman got on and she said, they asked her, I said, what trauma are you dealing with? She goes, my mother passed away and it's so painful because we talked every single day on the phone, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. She was my best friend. We spent virtually every day together. And she went on and on. She was tearing. And I could feel, I know, because my mother talked to her mother every single day as well. And they were together every single day. They lived virtually 2 blocks away. So I saw that. And I remember the pain my mother went through when her mom passed. So this woman's talking about the passing of her mother and how painful it was, and she's in tears. And the facilitator says, when did your mother pass? And she goes, next month it'll be 7 years. Okay, enough. You've grieved enough. I was with a guy, he was 92 years old, worked at the Empire State Building. He was a lawyer. And I said, you work at the Empire State Building and you're still working? Yeah, part-time, 92. I said, when did you start working at the Empire State Building? He goes, the day that it opened. He was 92, right? And he's a lawyer. I goes, do you have a family? He goes, yeah, I have sons and daughters. I goes, do you have a wife? No, she passed away about 7 or 8 years ago. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Was that your first wife? He goes, yeah, I actually was married to one woman all my life, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The best thing in my life was being married. The best thing in my life was my wife. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Did she pass away suddenly? She goes, yeah, she got hit by a bus. I thought, oh my God, what a dumb question I just asked. I'm going to bring this up. The guy's going to be in tears. I said, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. That must have been tragic. He goes, oh yeah, we were in New York City holding hands. We loved each other. And we were walking and we were just looking at each other and we both told each other how much we loved each other and we were smiling. She stepped off the curb and got hit by a bus while I was holding her hand. And I'm like, oh my God, that must have been a shock. Oh my, he goes, of course it was a shock. He goes, Kevin, I cried every day for a week. I go, what? He goes, I cried every day for a week. He says, you have to give yourself time to grieve and you have to let it out. You can't hold it in. So I decided I was going to grieve for 7 days. Well, after about 6 days, I kind of grieved enough. It's time to move on. And I said, you're the greatest guy I've ever met. But he said, but that's why he's living without cancer and he doesn't take any drugs. He doesn't hold on to anything, but he gave himself time to grieve. And if we go back in history, when people died, there was a grieving period. In some cultures, it was 30 days where the people, specifically women, would put on black and they would go and they would wail. There'd be like a time. We're going to be wailing for this hour every day as a group. We're going to wail and they're letting it out.
Right.
They're letting that energy out so they don't die of cancer from grief. They're letting it out. And then at the end of the time, they take the black off and they go on with living their life.
Right.
Most people hold on to stuff way too long and you're going to be miserable.
Right. In anything, not just death, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It could be a bankruptcy. It could be losing a job, losing a spouse. So a lover leaves you. People hold on to stuff. They start talking about things in the past. If it's in the past, it doesn't exist anymore. It's a picture of a tiger. It isn't a tiger. There's no reason to be afraid of it. Let it go.
What about simple things you do every day just to keep that positive mindset?
Well, there's a couple things that most people don't do. Number one, I breathe in and out through my nose. And I do pay attention to make sure that the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating. So I breathe in and out through my nose. And when I breathe, when you're stressed or tense or nervous, you start breathing shallow. So make a habit of breathing, relaxing the stomach and relaxing the face. And when you breathe in through the nose, the stomach should go out a little bit. And when you exhale, the stomach should go in a little bit. So that's the proper breath. And I do pay attention several times a day to make sure that that is my default breathing. That's number one. Number two, at nighttime, I open a window. Back in the day, I remember watching a movie one time. This was maybe back in the 20s or 30s. And the lawyer says, do you sleep at night with the window open? And the guy goes, well, of course. And the lawyer says, yeah, what a dumb question. Because everyone slept with windows open because you needed fresh air. People sleep in these hermetically sealed homes where there's no fresh air. Everything's recirculating. And every time you breathe, you're putting carbon something. It's either monoxide or dioxide you're putting poison out into the air. They don't have any plants to eat it. And so the oxygen levels of the air in your house is going down and down and down. And at nighttime, you're not going to sleep very well. Open up the darn window and keep it nice and cool. have nice heavy blankets. That's going to really make your sleep way better. You're going to release more melatonin, sleep better, dream better, wake up way more refreshed because you have oxygen all night long. So I do that. And number 3, I drink pure water. I have a reverse osmosis system in my house, also a whole house system. So I shower and bathe in filtered water. If I do buy bottled water, I buy it in glass. I don't buy it in plastic because of all the microplastics and nanoplastics and things. I keep that away as best I can. And we do want to hydrate. So make sure you drink plenty of water throughout the day. And I'll give you a little trick for those who drink coffee. When you drink coffee first thing in the morning, in coffee, there is an acid in it. There's tannic acid in the coffee and hydrochloric acid in your stomach. The hydrochloric acid in your stomach is a digestive enzyme. So when you drink coffee on an empty stomach, you're mixing tannic acid with hydrochloric acid. If you do that in a beaker, it turns to cement. So if you drink black coffee on an empty stomach, you're lining the stomach with a paste or cement type substance, which means you're not going to absorb protein or nutrients throughout the day very well. So you automatically start having a protein deficiency and you're hungry all day long because your body feels starving because it's not getting nutrients into the cell. So here's the hack. That's the word, right? Here's the hack. The hack is when you wake up, if you like to drink coffee, perfect. Get a hard-boiled egg. Have a hard-boiled egg first. You get some protein in. Now the hydrochloric acid attacks the protein. Now when you drink your coffee, the tannic acid doesn't have any hydrochloric acid to mix with. You get protein absorption and you're good to go throughout the day. You're going to be less hungry all day long. You're going to absorb more nutrients. You're going to feel a heck of a lot better. And for guys who do any type of exercise, or women, if you want to increase muscle tone, muscle mass, this will do it easily. I told this to a guy who worked out every single day in the gym and could not increase any muscle weight. He did this one hack. In 1 month, he put on 8 pounds of muscle, pure muscle, just by doing this one little hack. Wow. Not changing anything in his routine.
How do you relax?
I'm relaxed all day long. I do something in my house called fly on the wall training, where I allow people to come in and live with me. They're in the mansion for 24 hours. They can't talk to me. They have to be invisible and they watch me. And then at the end, that's when I sit down for about an hour and we talk and they can ask questions about what I did and why I did it. They observe success in action. They observe me applying all the techniques that I teach. One of the common themes is, I can't believe how relaxed Kevin is all day long. He's calm as a cucumber, just relaxed, gracefully and elegantly flowing through life, flowing through his activities, one after the other after the other. He gets more done before 10 o'clock than most people do in a whole day or maybe even a week. He's efficient, he's effective, but he's always relaxed. And I'll tell you one trick to do that. Remember this phrase: tomorrow starts today. One way to have a relaxed day is to plan for it the day before. So every day around 4 o'clock, I spend about an hour planning for the next day. I go through the to-do list that I have, what objectives I want to achieve. I go through my appointments, what I want to achieve in each appointment. I review the files for all the people that I'm going to be meeting with if I have appointments. I go through my to-do list and I determine which one is an A priority or a B priority. And my definition of an A priority is something that absolutely, positively has to happen today. It cannot wait till tomorrow, which means almost nothing is an A priority. And because almost nothing's an A priority, I'm totally relaxed because I don't have to do anything. There's nothing I must do, should do, have to do. And when I'm working on a project, I'm not feeling subconsciously, hurry, you have so many things on your to-do list. You'll never get it all done. And people feel overwhelmed. I don't feel overwhelmed. It's like, on my to-do list today, I have one A priority. I got to call a guy named Joe because I promised him I'd call him today because there's something that's happening tomorrow. He's got a meeting tomorrow. And I told him, I promise you I'll call you Monday so we can go over it. That way you'll be ready to go for your meeting on Tuesday. So I can't call him tomorrow. I got to call him today. I only have one A priority and I have a list of, of 15 things that are B's. So when I finish this interview, I go home, I call Joe, I'm done for the day. Now, I'm going to then choose to do this or this or this. I can pick which one is something I want to do or something that's a priority or something that'll take 2 minutes so I get a victory under my belt. But I'm totally relaxed all day long. And it's really preparing for your day, the day in advance, and giving yourself plenty of fudge room. That's another thing that I do. They were amazed. When I have a meeting scheduled at 9 o'clock, I think this meeting's going to go maybe 20 to 30 minutes. I book it in for an hour. That way, I'm ahead of schedule and I have extra time. Well, I can check some emails. I can do this. So I'm never rushed. I'm the exact opposite. I'm always got my feet up on the desk and I'm always lounging. And because of that, you get more done in less time with no stress or overwhelm. And what you get done gets done more efficiently and effectively.
Were you always like that as a kid too?
No, remember, my dad was a welder, so I didn't see success. But early on, my mentors, who were very successful people, allowed me to be a fly on the wall, and I watched them. So I watched and learned how to increase intensity to get something done, set a deadline, and work toward it, but enjoy it. And give you an example. If you're playing sports and you're watching an American football game or a basketball game, and there's 2 minutes to go. Well, there's an intensity there because the game's going to be over and we got to score a certain amount of points. Do you think those athletes are stressed out and overwhelmed? No, they love it. They love competition and they love the excitement of the game. That's what they live for. And they say that after the game. How did you feel in that last, 87 seconds coming back to win the game? And he goes, this is what I love about the game. I love being in there right at the end. I love it. And even if they didn't win, they still love it. So we have to enjoy when we put ourselves under a little time pressure as well. We're not stressed or overwhelmed. We're loving it. When you're going on a roller coaster, you don't feel stress or overwhelmed. You love it because you jump off and you go, let's do it again. You don't say, I never want to do that again. Well, some people do.
Well,
but most people who, yeah. Some people who like roller coaster rides, or remember we were kids, we'd like to go to the haunted house. I want to be scared. Or I remember this. Remember The English Patient, the movie The English Patient? Okay. So I'm going to go in to see The English Patient. There's two women coming out, and they're both crying. And I'm like going, I wonder what happened. And I overhear one go, that movie was absolutely the best movie I ever saw. And they're crying. And I go, excuse me, are you okay? Yes. And they're crying. I goes, what movie did you see? The English Patient? I goes, it was so sad. I loved it. I go, wait a minute. You loved it and you're crying. They loved feeling horrible.
I know, I don't get that. I'm not one of those people.
Exactly, yeah. But a lot of people, when we were kids, we loved being scared. Scare me. I want to go to the haunted house. I want to be frightened. Or I want to do this or that. We liked adventure. And then when we get older, we forget about loving adventure and loving the feel of all these various emotions.
Marriage, key to a good marriage.
Key to a good marriage. Well, I'm not an expert in marriage. I'm a newlywed. I've been married less than a year. I've been a bachelor my whole life, but I've been with this gal for over 3 years, and I can tell you we've never had an argument. We've never raised our voice to each other. I think the key to good marriage is finding the right person. If you have two pieces of a puzzle that don't fit together, there's no way you can have a good marriage if the puzzle pieces don't fit. I think people are trying to put a round peg in a square hole in most relationships instead of saying, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the right fit. I happen to find somebody that I'm a perfect fit for her and she's a perfect fit for me. And we always tell each other throughout the day how lucky we are to be with each other and how happy that person makes us. That's one thing we do on a regular basis. But remember, not all people are audio. Some people saying words don't mean anything. You have to actually do something. Like you have to put the trash out without being asked, and that's a sign of love to the other person. Oh, he loves me. He put the trash out. Right. And somebody else, you have to come home with a little card or a little trinket. It doesn't have to be an expensive gift, but if you give somebody something, that's the love language. Oh, they care about me. They gave me this gift. So everybody is different. I think knowing the other partner's love language and being thoughtful enough about that is critical. But I will tell you one thing with guys. And I will talk to the men here because most of you are making grave errors with women. One of my good friends is John Gray. He wrote the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he's the one who taught me this. He says, if you're with a woman is talking to you about some issue she has. She's not asking you to fix it. She's just sharing what's going on in her life. All you have to do is listen, pay attention, and say the magic words, I hear you.
That's right.
Okay? You
So-
don't try to fix it. I know guys are fixers. They got to fix everything. They got to come up with the solution. So don't do that. And the other thing I would say to both people, both men and women, don't invalidate your partner. If I said, I'm really upset about this. No, you're not upset. You shouldn't be upset. That's invalidating the person. The person just said they're upset. Okay. If they say they're upset, if they say something, validate it. Go, I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
Right.
I can understand that. Okay. Validate them, don't invalidate.
That's a good one. What are your thoughts on GLP-1 weight loss meds?
There are clear benefits because people lose weight. We know that. However, there are more negative long-term side effects that people are going to be dealing with than they ever thought possible. I'll give you an example. Botox and breast implants for women. Botox is botulism. So you're putting the poison botulism into your skin to kill all of the nerve endings, so therefore they're dead. And then people come to me because I wrote the book Natural Cures too, in addition to Your Wishes, Your Commands. People say, Kevin, I have migraine headaches, I have this problem, I have that problem, I have this problem. When did it start? I says, when did you start doing your Botox? I go, it has nothing, and they get pissed off. It has nothing to do with it. I go, yes, it is. Because when you take that Botox, you're not going to see a symptom in the first month or the first year. You're going to see it 5 years later. Same thing with the breast implant. You can't put a poison like silicone in your body, which is going to leach. We know this now with all the nanoparticles from plastics. We know it leaches. We know. You put mercury in your fillings, and then when the doctor takes it out, he has to have a hazmat suit on because it's so toxic and it's so deadly and dangerous. For him to take the filling out, everyone has to have hazmat suits, and then it has to go in biohazard containers. But it's okay to have in your mouth. That makes zero sense at all, right? Same thing with fluoride. Oh, fluoride will kill you if you drink a spoon of it. But let's put it in our water supply and drink it. Oh, it doesn't make any sense. So we're loading our body with toxins. And at the end of the day, the weight loss drugs, these things are making the body do something unnatural. Just look at the side effects. And they rattle them off. 60% of people who do it get nauseous. That means you have a gastrointestinal issue. And the nauseousness is the first one. You're developing a long-term problem. And don't be crying and complaining later. How did I develop the cancer? How did I develop the pancreatic? You're doing it. It happens slowly. Just like cigarette smoking. Okay, what's wrong with cigarette smoking, Kevin? I smoke. I've been smoking for a year. I'm not dead. Good. Well, 20 years from now when you have lung cancer, then talk to me. And you can't reverse it because it took 20 years to develop. So same thing with all these things people are doing where they're not thinking. They're not thinking the long term because they can't think long term. They also don't save any money either for the future. There was a phrase, save some money for a rainy day. Nobody does it. Well, if you're not going to save money for a rainy day or save money for your retirement, why would you even consider not doing something today that's going to produce massive health problems 20 years from now? No one thinks, right? I'm the bodybuilder. I'm going to take steroids. Look at my body. Okay. See me in 15 years.
What about drinking? Drinking is like the new smoking now, it seems, unfortunately.
Throughout the history of mankind, man has consumed alcohol in small amounts. Alcohol relaxes the muscles and is processed by the liver. It also relaxes the mind, so we know that. So alcohol in small amounts throughout history has been consumed throughout history, and some people did not consume it. The majority of the planet did because there wasn't any pure water. So in order to get fluid in your body, beer, which was the oldest form of alcohol produced by the Egyptians 5,000 years ago, probably even before that. This was liquid bread, they called it, because it used hops and barley in a fermented form, which builds up the good bacteria in the gut. And it's also very hydrating. The alcohol is dehydrating, but in small amounts, it relaxes the cell, actually causing the liquid to go in and hydrate better, number one. And number two, because of the fermentation process, alcohol such as beer and wine have a lower surface tension. So the clusters of molecules are smaller and flatter. Therefore, they will hydrate better. I was hiking up in Germany years ago. It was about a 2 or 3 hour hike. So I'm hiking straight up. When I get to the top, there's an area where, because it's also a ski area. So people would go up there and there's a restaurant up at the top of the mountain. So I hike up the mountain in the summer and everybody's outside in the sun, having lunch and so forth. And I am thirsty because I went through all my water going up the mountain. So the waitress comes over and I speak a little German. So I talked to her in German and I asked her for some Wasser. And she said, okay. But she looked at me kind of funny when I asked for a big bottle of water. And I'm looking at all the people around me. I'm in Bavaria. And they all have this tall glass that's amber color with this big, thick, head on it. It looks like a big glass of beer, right? But it's like cloudy in color. So she comes over and I go, what is everybody drinking? She goes, Weissbier. I go, what's Weissbier? She goes, Weissbier is wheat beer. And that's what you should be drinking because you just walked up the mountain. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, that'll hydrate you better than water. And I said, that's impossible. It's got alcohol in it. It's going to dehydrate you. She goes, oh, no. And then she explained why every athlete in Germany, all the hikers, why are they all drinking it? She goes, it has very small, low levels of alcohol, which will relax the muscles. You just tightened up all your muscles coming up. You want to relax them. So the small amount of alcohol relaxed it, but it has wheat, which is bread, in a fermented form, so you're not going to have any gluten intolerance to it. It's going to hydrate the cell and give you the carbohydrates you need to replenish. It's the hydrating fuel, and it's going to give you fuel, so you're going to feel amazing. So I had one glass of this. Frank, I felt like Superman. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding. And I went back and did all the research on it, and it's absolutely true.
I love that. Vices is a specific one, though, or just beer?
Well, let me tell you about beer. I'll give you the bad news. You can't drink any beer made in America. And even brands like Stella Artois, they're not made in Belgium anymore. They're made in America under Anheuser-Busch. So what they do is they use different wheat, they use different hops, different barley. They also use high fructose corn syrup, and they use rice. They put rice in there. In American beer, almost all American beer is cut with rice, unfortunately. So if you want to drink beer, it's got to be from England, made in England, or from Belgium, or ideally Germany. Germany is where beer started from, right? So you get beer that was actually brewed in Germany, and you get it in a bottle. And there's some Weiss beer, which is a wheat beer, which is great to drink after exercise, or a nice lager beer, or any type of beer. But I'm telling you, it is not the same. It's like saying milk is good, milk is bad. Time out. Milk from grass-fed cows that's not homogenized, or milk from cows injected with bovine growth hormone and antibiotics that's been homogenized and is poison. So milk is not milk, and beer is not beer. So when I say beer, I'm talking about beer from Germany, made in Germany, and Weiss beer, which is the wheat beer, but also the lagers are fine too, in small amounts. And I'm not talking about drinking a 6-pack tonight. I'm talking about drinking a glass of beer.
Right. Let's talk about natural cures for a sec, if you want to. The book that sold millions of copies. So controversial. Why did it?
Was controversial back then. It isn't controversial anymore because everything in it's mainstream.
That's right.
Came out 20 years ago.
You were the OG of it all.
It was 20 years ago when I wrote the book, Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About.
Longer, 20.
Yeah, 20 years ago, 2005. Sold 50 million copies. It was #1 on the New York Times best-selling list 26 weeks in a row. I said things in there, dozens of things, which today are absolute mainstream. Red dye, high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified food, fluoride in the water, ultra-processed food. I was on NBC, and NBC crucified me. You say talcum powder is bad for your health and potentially dangerous. Babe Johnson's baby powder has been around forever. How dare you make an outrageous statement like that? You're scaring mothers. And I go, talc is a deadly poison. If you put it on your skin, it causes hormonal imbalances and potentially could lead to cancer. The research is clear. That's outrageous for you to make those claims. Somebody should be suing you. This is NBC. Guess what we know today?
Yep.
It's off the market, isn't it? There's no more such thing as Johnson's baby powder with talc, because everything I said in the book that I was crucified for, by the way, that goes in the Kevin Was Right file. And that file's pretty darn thick.
Why? Why did it spark so much criticism and pushback?
Well, primarily because I was affecting Johnson and Johnson. I was affecting every major pharmaceutical company out there and all the agricultural industry. I talked about Roundup and I talked about all these things that today we know are absolutely true. I was upsetting the apple cart. Here's an example. Those who eat the most fruits and vegetables have the highest rates of cancer. What is that? That's a big, and you know why? Because the fruits and vegetables they're eating are conventionally grown that are loaded with pesticides and herbicides. So they're putting in the most amount of poison, toxic, chemical-inducing agents in their body. So even though they have the good from the fruit and vegetable, they're getting the bad, and the bad outweighs the fruit and vegetable, which is why you have to have produce without the sprays, without the herbicides, without the pesticides, without all these fungicides and all these chemical agents that are absolutely 100% deadly to the body. And we know this. I was talking to some of the executives of some of the companies, and they said, Kevin, we only use minute amounts, absolute minute amounts. I go, okay, here's a glass of water. By the way, I put a minute amount of my piss in the water. Here you go. But don't worry, it's a minute amount. Will you still drink it? Of course not. I mean, right?
Right.
It's a minute amount. I go, and they say, and it has no effect. It doesn't do anything. I go, if it doesn't do anything, why are you putting it in? It has a profound effect on the biological product that you put it in. It does something that you need. It does something so powerful that you have to put it in. If it didn't do anything, if it didn't have any effect, you wouldn't put it in even at that minute amount. If I put that minute amount in my body and then over and over and over, because every time I eat something, there's another chemical in it and it's building up. This stuff doesn't leave the system. It goes into the fatty tissue in the cells and is a cumulative effect, which is what the problem is with marijuana versus alcohol. You drink alcohol today, the liver processes the alcohol. It's gone. You smoke a joint today, 20% of that chemical is in the fatty tissue. It builds up. It doesn't get out of the system. It doesn't leave the system. Alcohol gets processed by the liver. Marijuana doesn't, which is why the studies now are so conclusive that marijuana smoking for stress and anxiety actually does the exact opposite. Initially, it makes you relax because you're numb. But then the buildup happens, and over 15 or 20 years, now you are so stressed and anxious, you're off the charts. It actually worsens the problem. Same thing with psychedelics, because they don't leave the body. The body doesn't process that. There's a residual that stays in the fatty tissue in the cell. And the same thing with pharmaceutical drugs. It doesn't leave the body. Yeah, maybe 90% does, maybe 95%. But you're accumulating it over time, and it's accumulating in the fatty tissue. And therefore, you're going to blow up like a balloon. It's going to be harder to lose weight. Your hormone balances get crazy. So you have emotional mood swings. And it's all because of a toxic buildup.
Looking back, which of your ideas or your claims are you most confident about today? Or really just all of them, right? It's
I
probably
think, I have a good track record, and I was not kidding. I actually do have a file. It's called Kevin Was Right. Because when I come up with something and I get crucified for it, I go, that's fine. I'll wait, because all of a sudden it's going to be mainstream. And it goes in the Kevin Was Right file. Everything I talked about in the book Natural Cures, it goes in the Kevin Was Right file.
What's your next book? Kevin Was Right.
Well, I'm not too sure about the next one. I do have a whole host. One is called The Vitamin Scam. It's going to blow the lid off the nutritional industry, because the nutritional industry is one of the biggest scams going next to the pharmaceutical industry. People are getting ripped off 100% left and right. They're buying supplements that they think are good. And again, I know the owners of most of these big companies, and they all say the same thing. They go, Kevin, these products are for selling, not for taking. They're producing product with beautiful labels, with great advertising, but the product they're getting in from China, they're buying the cheapest, most worthless stuff they could find, because they said the public just doesn't know the difference. So there's going to be a book called The Vitamin Scam that's going to blow the lid off it.
Do you ever like work with RFK Jr. or anything like that on any?
I had him when I had my radio show back in 2013. He was actually on my show several times. Yeah, and the Suzanne Summers, remember Suzanne? She
Yes, of
passed
course.
away
Yeah.
because she was a big advocate of, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and other natural things as well. And I had many, Mary Lou Henner was on, so she was on my show. We had a lot of people like that were very big advocates, Joe Mercola and a whole bunch of Deepak Chopra and so forth. But I never met RFK in person. Obviously, he is kind of inundated right now because of his position. But I certainly would love to, be involved in some way to help educate people. And if not from a government perspective, at least from what I'm doing, like with the book, Your Wish is Your Command. There's one thing in that book that I think is probably the most prevalent, and that is what Zig Ziglar, the great motivational speaker, said. He said, it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that will always determine your altitude in life. It's your attitude. And most people don't think about that. I was doing a show and a woman was interviewing me, the journalist, and she was nasty. And you know what I'm talking about. Some journalists are very, open-minded and they ask good questions and they may be firm and they may be, pushing, but some are just nasty. And she was nasty. And she said, well, I bet you think you can do anything with a positive attitude. And I said, well, actually, no, you can't do anything with a positive attitude. But you can do everything better than if you have a negative attitude. And all the cameramen started to applaud.
Oh, wow. That's great.
She immediately softened. That was the thing that broke her. She was like, I can understand that.
Yeah.
We became friends afterwards.
Do you have a favorite comfort food? Gotta ask that.
Oh, my mother's from Italy. Now, she's passed away now. So if there is one dish that you can put in front of me, it will make me happy every single time, it's good old spaghetti and meatballs. In a nice red sauce, homemade sauce, cooked for at least 3 hours, usually the day before because it's always better the second day. And the pasta, of course, al dente.
All right. I'm Italian, so I love that. Well, you're a delight. Thank you so much for doing this. And I wish you success with your book. It sounds awesome.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on, pleasure meeting you virtually, and maybe someday in the future.
For more of this interview, check out Life Minute on all streaming podcast platforms.